Welcome. So you've decided having a payroll in your property company is the right thing for you. What do you do next? Let's sit down and go through what you need to think about. So you've decided that setting up a payroll is the right thing for your property company. Fantastic. Now the question that comes next is, what the hell do I need to do now? So let's just go through what you need to do. So it means that you can get started and get things moving to get your payroll up and running. Now, one of the first questions to ask is, do you want to be dealing with this yourself, or do you want some support from someone? Now, for a lot of people, they might want to go and get support. So talk to your accountant, tax advisor, or find a payroll bureau who can assist you, and they'll be able to take you through the process that we're going to be talking through today. But let's have just a chat through what you do need to do, so you know what to expect from them if you do decide to go down the route of having someone support you rather than dealing with it yourself. Now, if it's a relatively straightforward payroll, then it is something that you could do yourself, and that's not a problem. I know many clients who, for director-only payrolls, they are doing it themselves and have no issues whatsoever. So don't just write it off as something you can't do. It is something you can do. It's just whether you want to do it in some ways. Step one then. Step one is all about setting up your PAYE scheme. Now, a PAYE scheme means pay as you earn. So if you've ever had a job in your life, you will have been on a PAYE scheme. And to set one of these up, you need to go onto HM Revenue and Customs website, which I've included a link below in the description. And from there, you'll enter certain key information, which they will show you on screen. And having entered this information, they'll say, that's great, we will issue you a PAYE number. Now, this number does not, as you may guess, come straight away. It can take a couple of weeks to arrive in the post. Not a problem. You just need to wait for that number to come through to be able to make certain submissions. It doesn't slow you down from actually running your payroll. It just means you may be behind on a few of the submissions that we'll be discussing in a moment. The letter that they issue to you will have your PAYE reference and also an accounts office reference. Now, these are very crucial numbers and references, so do keep them carefully stored away. So you've got them either for the person who's going to be supporting you or for your own records for dealing with the different aspects of it, especially if you're going to need to phone them up and ask them any questions. Now that you're ready to get started, you'll need to decide how you're going to run your payroll. Unfortunately, you cannot do it manually. It definitely will require some sort of software. Now, there's something called HMRC Online Tools, which you will be able to download, and this is HMRC's free software to be able to do payroll. So the link is in the description below, and you can click on that and have a look at using that. Alternatively, if you are using software already online, something like maybe Xero or QuickBooks Online, they also have a payroll function for you to use. Obviously, for something like that, there will be a charge for using that service. However, it obviously all ties in with your bookkeeping, so it should make it easier for your year-end accounts when you're pulling things like that together. The final option here is that you do use someone to provide this service for you, which means you won't need to get any software because the support, the accountant, tax advisor, or payroll bureau will have that software for you, and you won't need to purchase it independently. After you've made the decision of what software you're going to be using, that's when you'll need to get it set up. So depending which choice you make, you can have a look at the guides, have a look at how it goes through the setup process to enter all the information for you, the company, the business that is running the payroll, which you'll have those references that we discussed earlier, and you'll also need the information about the employee, which atypically is going to be yourself or potentially a business partner or family member. So getting that information together should be hopefully relatively straightforward to get it onto the system. This moves us now onto the actual looking at processing your payroll, and this is done in tax months. So you might ask, what is a tax month? A tax month is from the 6th of each month to the 5th of each month. So if you think about the tax year in the UK, this goes from the 6th of April through to the 5th of April each tax year. And a tax month just goes from the 6th of a month to the 5th of the following month. Generally, I would recommend running your payroll once each tax month. You can run it more frequently, such as weekly or fortnightly, or you can extend the period and run it quarterly or even annually if you would like to. However, I generally see things running monthly as it just keeps things flowing and working well for a lot of businesses. Now, if you're running it monthly, that is great. You just need to make sure each pay date is within a tax month. So this might be the last day of the month. It may be the 5th of every month, which means you're always on the last day of the tax month. Generally, it doesn't matter what day you run it. I just suggest that you run it the same day or the same time period each month so that you get a cycle going and you know when you're going to be running things. Now, you'll probably hear a lot around payroll the term director's salary. Now, a director's salary is a lower salary that doesn't fit minimum wage rules, so you're not looking at minimum wage rates. It is a salary that gives you the benefits of all the tax incentives, so you tick the box for your pensions, you get your national insurance contributions. It means you'll be able to get your statutory payments if you're sick, if you're maternity, paternity, all these sorts of things, but you're just paying a minimal amount of national insurance. Now, this generally will change as the national insurance rates change over time, so just check with your accountant what the appropriate salary is going to be for you to be running on your payroll each month to tick the appropriate boxes. For a director's salary, there are other benefits with national insurance. Normally each month you would have an allocated amount towards your personal allowance, that 12,500 amounts that has been ticking around for a number of years at present. Now, what normally happens for any normal employee is they have so much of that personal allowance each month. However, for a director, they work on the cumulative basis, which means each month they just look at the total personal allowance and add it up throughout the tax year. Now, this is great because it means that you're not going to be paying any tax potentially until later in the tax year if you go over that personal allowance threshold. So just a benefit to making sure you're shown as a director's salary on your payroll. Each pay period, you'll run your payroll. You'll process it for any of the employees that you've got on your payroll, whether that just be one person or whether that be multiple people. Having run your payroll using the software, which will do all its magic for you, then you will see about issuing your pay slips to your employees, which probably won't be the most thrilling reading if it's just a director's salary. And from there, that's most of the work that you have to do. The final things you will need to do is make the submissions to HM Revenue and Customs. Now, these are known as RTI, or real-time information submissions, and there is a few that you may need to do. The one you'll need to do every single time is called an FPS submission, and this is a full payment submission. This is something you need to do on or before the payment date. So you'll need to do this each period that you make the payment and do the pay run. Whether you actually make that payment physically in cash or not, you'll still need to make this submission each pay period when you run the payroll. A secondary submission that you will need to put to HMRC is called an EPS, which is an Employer Payment Summary submission. And what this means is you're telling them that you've got nothing to pay to them. So this is one you may need to do if you're not paying any national insurance or you're not paying any tax to them, to just confirm to them, don't expect anything from me. I'm not going to be paying you any money. really, that is everything. You've had your submission, confirming you're not making any payment, and that will follow through. You can do both of these submissions on the same day, so it just keeps everything relatively straightforward for you. As we said, you can then issue your pay slips to your employees so that they've got them for their records, and it may be something that you need for mortgage purposes in the future when you're proving your income for your broker. The final step of the whole process is therefore to make the actual physical cash payment to your employee. Now, if you're running a payroll and there's not a lot of cash in the business, it may be you can't make that payment. That is not necessarily an issue if it is yourself, because you can in essence make the payment and make an immediate director's loan account loan to yourself as a director or shareholder of the company. If it is for any other person, you'll need to definitely make payment to them to fulfill employment law requirements. And finally, you'll need to also make payment to HMRC and Customs if there is any tax or national insurance deductions to make. And this needs to be done by the 19th of the month. So the tax month runs to the 5th of each tax month. And then any payments to HMRC need to be paid by the 19th following the 5th of the tax month that's just finished. A few final things to just mention include something called employment allowance. Now, if you are just doing a one director salary payroll, this is irrelevant. However, if you've got more than one person on the payroll, you may be able to make use of the employment allowance and have a chat with your advisor to check what salary you should be paying yourselves to make the most of this employment allowance available. If you'd like to know more, please let me know and I can do a separate video on the employment allowance so it makes full sense. That takes us through the whole payroll process to give you a general overview of how it all fits together. Obviously, we've not been through every tiny little nitty-gritty detail because everyone's is slightly different. However, hopefully that gives you an idea of the key things that you need to be aware of if you're looking at running your payroll. Or it may have just given you that spur to say, actually, I'll let someone help me get this right. Either route, speak to your advisors to check what is going to be the right option for you. I hope today you've discovered how you go about setting up a payroll in your property company. If you have any further questions, please leave a comment in the comments below.